Hello guys, and welcome to the competitors video. I'm Ed Haynes, talking you through your training priorities for the next training block for the competitors. It is now the 25th of September. We're day 2 of an 8-week intensification cycle. First and foremost, those who've just recently joined the program, welcome. We do try to get these videos out every 4 to 8 weeks based upon the training cycle and the block that we're currently doing. The goal of these videos is to provide you guys with some kind of insight into what we're doing and why we're doing it. Typically, our competitors group are the most invested in their training journey. So what we hope is that the more we can provide you with regards to background information on the stimulus that you're currently doing, hopefully you guys are gonna get more out of your training. Just kind of a few little introductory thoughts is the goal of the competitors program. We are looking to peak you guys to the CrossFit Open, and that's currently the 2018-2019 season. A lot of our competitors are also taking part in kind of local, regional or global competitions. So we hope that the training stimulus is moving you towards being a better athlete in that regard. Currently, obviously, there's been a lot of speculation and talk about changes to the open season. We are going to actually get a video out on our YouTube podcast shortly talking about kind of our thoughts on that and kind of how it might change our approach to prepping an athlete for the sport. The next really important thing is the Performance Competitors Athlete Camp that we're going to be running on the 3rd and 4th of November. This is going to be our 4th year running these camps. They've been hugely successful and they're a lot of fun. To kind of give you guys some ideas on what the camp's about, we do have a video up on our website. All you have to do is go type in Coastal Fitness Athlete Camps and you can watch the introductory video there. But really the goal of the camp is to provide those who have some perhaps higher elevated goals within this training and this sport to kind of be equipped with some really useful tools on how to get more out of their training, how to get more out of their competing, and really just kind of how to get more out of everything else outside the training sphere, kind of sleep quality, stress management and nutrition. And basically kind of deliver that in a competitive, educational and fun environment. Things we're going to be changing up this year compared to last year is that we're going to have more breakaway groups. So each athlete will be assigned a coach for the weekend, and that coach will be providing you on immediate workout feedback. Everyone who attends the camp will also receive an email in the following week with a video breakdown of one of your workouts over the weekend, and hopefully you guys find that to be insightful. We're going to also talking about the training that's required to be more effective, or how to perform better on a certain type of workout. So we'll kind of be doing big review sessions this year, kind of something that's been asked of from our previous years of camps. Really hope that everyone in our competitors program, definitely in Hong Kong, those training at Coastal Fitness and in other gyms, that you guys are able to attend that weekend. For those of you who are living around the region, we'd love for you guys to fly in. We had 10 international visitors come and attend that camp last year. And for those of you in the wider global community, why not? This might be a great excuse for you to come over to Hong Kong and see what this lovely country has to offer. Moving on, just to quickly talk about the competitors program. Our scheduled training days are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday is a scheduled rest day. We then train on Friday and Saturday, and Sunday is a scheduled rest day. So for those of you who are training in-house at Coastal Fitness, that's fairly self-explanatory because that's the way that your training program has been set up and the classes have been set up. But for those of you who are following our program remotely, it might be a little bit confusing, and I can empathize and understand that. Similarly, our proposed training split might not fit with your daily routines or your weekly routines. Therefore, we have no problem with you guys changing up the stimulus. Just bear in mind that the stimulus and the dose response of each day is designed based on a 3-day, 1 day off, 2-day, 1 day off. So if you do start to kind of mix match your days, or you're catching up on sessions retroactively, just bear in mind if we start to kind of change up those training days, you might not be able to perform as optimally as possible. But at the end of the day, we want you to be realistic and do whatever fits best with your schedule. As I briefly touched on at the start of this video, we are currently at the start of an 8-week intensification cycle. When we talk about intensification with regards to the sport of CrossFit, we basically mean that when we get into intensification phase of the training, our training starts to look a little bit more like the sport. Now, when we talk about what the sport is, obviously that's very context dependent. If we were talking to someone who's prepping for the games, that would be very different to someone who is prepping for the CrossFit Open. But for the majority of us in this group, we are prepping for the CrossFit Open. So basically in the next 8 weeks, your training is going to look a little bit more like typical tests or mixtures and combinations of movements that we might see in the Open. So kind of statistically, that tells us that we need to learn to cycle light to moderately heavy barbells. We need to be highly proficient in the broad spectrum of gymnastics movements, even handstand walks based on last year. It means we need to start to perform our movements to probably more stricter standards if you haven't been doing that already. We're looking at anywhere between the kind of like 5 to 10 minutes or 5 to 20 minutes time duration for actual energy system pieces, things like that. So what we could obviously do is take more of a safe and accumulation approach to your training, which is basically, isolate all the movements, bring up their capacities or strength capacities within each of those movements, and then close to the year, we kind of expose you to what the sport might look like 1 to 3 months out. What we do know though is that it is really important to kind of provide small doses throughout the year of sport specific training. So we've just come out of 12 weeks of accumulation work where we've kind of still exposed you guys to kind of small touches of sport specific pieces, but this next 8 weeks is going to be we're going to have a real focus on that. Now with that, typically it is a bit more demanding on the body, both metabolically and neurally. So we're actually going to break up the next 8 weeks into a 3-week training phase, followed by a 3 to 6 day deload, 3-week training phase, 3 to 6 day deload, and then we'll review and basically decide what our next priorities for the next training block is, which is when you'll probably see me on the next video. Getting into a bit more details as to how we split out your week. Monday, we're going to be doing some moderately heavy to heavy clean work. This is going to be moving more into like a sport specific capacity. So we've really isolated the clean and the jerk for the last kind of 2 blocks. Now you're going to see some kind of like short rest periods, continue to cycle moderate bars. And that's going to go more into a fatigue based setting as we move along through the 8 weeks. As you guys saw yesterday, we're going to be doing some shoulder overhead cycling. We're going to keep that quite varied. When we feel that our ability to cycle a moderate to moderately heavy barbell is at the point that we're satisfied with, we'll start to bring that into a fatigue based setting. And that's kind of just our general approach to isolating movements and then having movements in a conditioning setting. Your Mondays are going to be finishing with some barbell or dumbbell or kind of odd object type conditioning, less demanding on the aerobic system, more demanding on the neural system or the muscular system. So kind of don't expect those Mondays to be the hardest kind of breathing days. Specifically want to stack the heavier work on that day. Your accessory work, which hopefully all our competitors are doing, is going to be kind of lower body structural balance and some midline work on the Monday. On Tuesdays, we are driving up for the next couple of weeks, chest to bar technique and efficiency. So I think this week we saw some kind of gymnastics complexes, and really we're going to probably be finishing this block with some sport specific pulling testing. So that might be some kind of capacity tests in your toes to bar, chest to bar, and muscle ups. Just so you guys know, I was really happy with where we are as a group when we did our ring and bar muscle up testing last block. We're able to express much higher numbers than we ever have been in the past, and that's really great to see. So now we're going to basically take the foot off isolating the muscle up so much, and we're going to start to put the muscle up ring and bar variations into our conditioning work. There will be a time before the season starts, of course, where we'll kind of bring that back out and kind of isolate it again, but we'll just kind of always move in between isolation and fatigue based. We're going to be doing some kind of sport specific conditioning work on a Tuesday. We're going to keep that in like an EMOM based setting for now, where we can kind of take the foot off intensity so much and focus more on movement efficiency and skill acquisition. But as we drive up skill acquisition and movement efficiency, we'll start to put it more into an intensity type setting. But for now, foot off the gas a little bit. Let's really pay attention in those EMOM settings on how we can be more efficient with each movement that we do. Your accessory work on a Tuesday is going to be some kind of like zone 3 aerobic work, so typically like cyclical based aerobic work, rowing, skiing, assault bike and skipping, mixed in with some kind of elements of strongman, so where you're having to move from a high breathing environment into a high bracing environment. So that might be D-ball carries, bear crawls, farmers carries, wall walks, that kind of stuff, where the diaphragm is having to stabilize from that high breathing state. Wednesday, as always, is going to be your snatch day. Again, like some big snatch numbers going up, and I forgot to say some huge jerk numbers going up at the end of the last block. That is awesome to see, both males and females. Our snatch numbers are still continuing to move towards what we would probably deem to be competitive numbers within the global CrossFit community, but it's definitely still a movement that needs work. So we're going to still keep a focus on kind of technique and efficiency in the snatch, not necessarily hitting heavy weights all the time. You're going to start to see some more snatch accessory work going in on those Wednesdays. That's going to start with some slow time and attention overhead squatting, and as we can improve the positions and the tolerance to moderate loads overhead for longer periods of time, we'll start to put that into a mixed model setting. One thing you'll see is that typically when we get into a sport specific training phase, your squatting work is going to be a little bit more overhead squat, front squat biased, because those are the two squatting patterns that we see more in a sport relative to back squatting. Keeping handstand push-ups in on your Wednesdays. Again, we're kind of trying to unload overhead pushing a little bit on the Tuesday, because we did get some feedback that people's shoulders are feeling a little bit beat up. So kind of unloading the overhead on a Tuesday and basically making sure that we kind of stack that on Monday and Wednesdays. Thursday, of course, is your rest day. On Fridays, we're going to be getting into a phase of deadlift absolute strength training. So we're going to be starting with that, kind of being able to kind of drive up our 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 rep maxes in the deadlift. We haven't had a strict deadlift strength phase in a while. That's why we're kind of revisiting that. We're then going to be working on some squatting absolute speed strength. So think of that as like light to light moderate loads, moving fast concentrically in the movement. It's a really important adaptation that we need to create if we are to do something like the dumbbell front squat, bar facing burpee over dumbbell workout, which already opened last year, or moving light to moderate thrusters. And then we're going to keep those Fridays as kind of like a CrossFit type mixed varied tester. It's important that we kind of do pull away from the structure every now and then and kind of throw some craziness at you. So you'll typically see couplets or triplets on those Fridays with the intention of kind of going a little bit harder than we typically would in our training. We're going to be finishing those Fridays with some midline conditioning. So that's not necessarily just doing a ton of planks and holds. It's actually putting it into a semi-fatigue based setting. Saturdays for the competitors group is our longer aerobic day. We're going to keep that in there. There are a few reasons for that. It's at the end of 4 hard days of training. So typically we kind of want to unload the nervous system, muscular system, and our joints to kind of actually kickstart that recovery process into the weekend. It's also a very important kind of modality of training that needs to be addressed if we want to be competitive in the sport. A lot of our competitors have highly developed aerobic systems already, but this ensures we're continually addressing that even as we get closer to the season. We're going to start to kind of vary these Saturdays up a little bit more, maybe some partner workouts and some team workouts, still with a focus on working kind of longer durations of time at kind of light to moderate loads and kind of just filling in the gaps based on what we haven't addressed in that week. Handstand walking, guys, I know there is a reason we put it on a Saturday. It's because typically we have a bit more space in the gym, especially if you're training those later classes. So apologies those following remotely. This is kind of designed specifically for those training at Coastal. With that said, I have noticed that a lot of people haven't been doing their handstand walk and accessory work. It is a very important skill in the sport. We know it's now tested at the open level, and typically what CrossFit like to do is once they introduce it 1 year, they'll typically have that as a staple for the following years. So we're currently in September. We don't have that long until the Open's going to be kind of around the corner again. Really important you guys start putting in the work with your handstand walking. We do provide regressions every week. So if you aren't at the stage of actual efficient handstand walking, we provide a kind of isolated skill pieces to build confidence, positioning and endurance in the handstand position. But there's going to be a time where you're going to have to just suddenly take that plunge into actual handstand walking and fall a few times. We've all done it, but kind of, once you're at that stage, you've unfortunately just got to make the decision yourself and kind of get into it head first. Excuse the pun. And we're going to be finishing off the week with some upper body and lower body functional bodybuilding, just to make sure we're staying structurally balanced through that upper and lower body, and not just creating movement imbalances based upon a lot of the movements we see in the sport. Some concluding comments for the competitors group. Your movement prep work, it's always in there and it's specifically designed for the session of that day. We don't involve the movement prep work too much. We kind of want to take a shotgun approach in it, where we're going to provide you with a list of 5 to 6 different movement prep pieces, and for you guys to just kind of play and experiment with that. With that said, if you see or you found that there was something in the movement prep work in previous programs that was very effective, but you don't see it there anymore, that doesn't mean we don't want you to do it. We want you guys to invest in this kind of journey of exploring movement and movement prep and mobility work, and then kind of finding what works best for you and kind of sticking that away in your toolbox and using it when you need to. Remember, that is specifically designed for the stimulus of that day. So if you do invest the time and the energy into your movement work, you're only going to get more out of your training session. Rest and catch-up days. Remember, you are more than welcome to come in on Thursdays and Sundays if you're training in-house with us. Those of you who are training remotely, if it's more realistic to change up the training days based upon your schedule, please do so. We'd rather that you train than not train. Dealing with aches, pains, and injuries, the training volume and intensity of the competitors program is by far the highest of our 3 training groups, and therefore, it's kind of an expectation that we are going to pick up small niggles and injuries along the way. How you manage that is really, really important. Don't ignore pain signals. First and foremost, do everything you can do within your control to kind of mitigate some of those signals or some of those issues. Speak to one of the coaches on how you can adapt your training to ensure that you're still sticking with the program, but not kind of compounding a problem. And lastly, reach out to a physiotherapist, a tissue therapist. We have a great couple of people here at Coastal, and kind of ask them for advice, and they can probably help you with your prehabilitation journey. The competitors work, remember, that is in there for you guys, and part of you guys committing to the competitors program is to also say that you do have the time and the energy available to do it. I think it's a really, really important part of progressing as an athlete to do things like isometric work, eccentric work, skill-based exercises, and they are very important parts of the competitors program, because it kind of rounds out our training week on a week-by-week basis. So please, guys, make sure you do get that work in. It is constantly evolving and is very specific towards moving the needle towards your goals. Remember to log everything. The way that our program works is that we build the training stimulus based upon the feedback that comes back from you guys. So we're using the WhatUp system. It's a really great system. We're very happy with it as a coaching team. So the more information you guys can give us, the more accurately we can prescribe your training program. On that, just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who's joined our program remotely. We now have over 100 people worldwide who are following the Coastal Fitness performance and competitors training groups. It's awesome to see. It's really building a cool kind of online leaderboard, which is very motivating to a lot of people as well. So guys overseas, keep up the great work. If you do have friends, family members, other people in your gym who are as committed, as dedicated as you are, who'd also like to be a part of the program, please send me an email. I'd love to speak to them and see if we can kind of have them join our community. Just got to drop me an email to ed@coastalfitnesshk. I'll put that in the comment section below. The Coastal Fitness YouTube podcast, something that we've been dedicating a lot of time to, thanks to Coach Sadalami for putting a lot of effort into that. The idea of the podcast is to get you guys educational content which we think is going to help you, get more out of your training and life, essentially. So please make sure you're watching those. We are in the process of moving those podcasts onto an actual podcast, which means we should probably then start calling it podcast, because it's not really right now, which is hopefully going to make it a little bit more accessible to you guys. If you have feedback for us, please send it our way. We want to make that a really refined product that you guys get a lot out of. Guys, I think that's it for me for now. Thank you very much for all your commitment and dedication. If you do have any questions, you can just reach out to me or any of the coaching team, and we'd be happy to help you. Everyone on Facebook Live, thank you for tuning in. We'll be releasing the YouTube videos tomorrow. Please take the time to kind of have another watch and let us know if you have any questions. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.